Morning folks, and welcome back. Maggie and I are out today to cook up a bit of lunch, and I thought it would be a good opportunity to get in a bit of friction firelighting practice. As some of you know, later in the year I'm going on a 5-day hunter-gatherer sort of primitive wilderness skills course slash challenge, and one of the things I need to really practice is my firelighting. I won't be able to take any form of firelighting with me, so I'm going to be completely relying on friction firelighting to get my fire going. Without my fire I'm going to struggle on that course because it's going to be my only heat source. No blankets, no sleeping bags, nothing like that, so my fire is my only source of keeping warm at night. It's also the only way I can purify water for drinking and obviously cooking as well. I'm not very good at friction firelighting. I'd be the first to admit that. It is a challenging method, which is one of the reasons why I think it's important to practice it as much as you possibly can, in under different conditions, using different woods, and just kind of find out what works the best, really. Now, because I know it's an area of weakness, it's definitely my Achilles heel. I bought a book recently, this book here by Leigh called the Bow Drill Bible, and this book is fantastic. I've been reading through this and getting some tips and learning a bit. You know, I can see through reading this that I've been making mistakes, so I'm hoping to kind of work on some of those today, and hopefully I'll have a bit more success than I have done in the past. This book is available on Amazon, and I'll put a link in the description box below. But you know, if you've got an interest in primitive skills, or firelighting, bushcraft, or you're just, you know, interested in how our ancestors did things, you know, this is a really good book, really interesting, very useful guide. Lots of information on different woods, what's suitable and what's not, techniques. There's a kind of troubleshooting section. You know, if you're having trouble getting an ember going, this might point you in the right direction. So yeah, really recommend this book. Well, I'm not having very much success here. I started off with one divot, and my spindle just kept slipping out of it, so I did another one, and it's now burnt that through at a elongated angle, so that one's just breaking out. But I've got close. I've had a good amount of smoke, which lasted for a few seconds after I stopped bowing, but it just didn't develop into an ember. I think my spindle is too short. I've had to sharpen the top to reduce friction a few times now, and I've now reduced it down to about 4 inches, and it's just not long enough. And I'm kind of catching my hand and catching the bow on my boot as I'm bowing, and yeah, it's just not having it. So I'm going to make myself a new spindle. Well, that was hard work getting that fire going. You know, I don't practice bow drill nearly as much as I should. Like a lot of people, I get a bit lazy. It's very easy to get the ferro rod out, and you know, it's reliable and almost guaranteed to get a fire going as long as you've got the right tinder. And so that's what I always reach for, you know. But it's important to learn these skills. It's important to practice these skills to keep them alive. And you know, it's interesting just to see and practice how our ancestors did it. And you know, you just never know, do you? You might be in a situation where you have to rely on it one day. You know, anything can happen. So I'm going to get on and do a bit of cooking now. As I said, I've got some lamb leg steaks with me, which I'm going to cook up for Maggie and I. And I've just picked a whole load of nettles, because to go with it I'm going to have some creamed nettles, which is basically like creamed spinach. Nettles very similar to spinach. So and as this island is just thick and covered in nettles, it seemed like the right thing to do to use some. So I've just filled my cup with the tips from the nettle plants and the kind of younger leaves, which tend to be a bit less fibrous and a bit more tender. And I'm going to bring them up to the boil and just let them steep in that boiling water. That will just soften them all, and then I'll chop them up. So in my billy, I've just put some butter, a good knob of butter, and half an onion. It only needs to be a small onion for this recipe, but I only had large onions, so I've just used half of one. And I'm just gonna hang that up over the fire. I don't want it to get too hot, but I want that onion to cook down without it burning. Right, once the onions have had about 5 minutes and they're just starting to soften nicely, you're going to add a tablespoon of plain flour. I'll put the ingredients for this in the description box below. For the full portion, this is just the half portion that I'm making today, just because it's only going to be me eating it. Maggie's going to have some of the lamb, but obviously not the nettles because it's full of onion. Yeah, so just add your flour and stir that in and just cook that in with the onion for a minute or so. And then once that's cooked for a minute or two, you're going to add some milk. This is whole milk, 100 millilitres. Just mix that in. And then what will happen is, as this is now heating up, the flour will thicken the milk. So just keep an eye on that and just keep stirring it. I might just lower that down just a bit. Oh, I've got a Maggie hair in there, look. Okay, while that sauce is thickening up, we're going to deal with these nettles. So I'm just going to strain these now. We don't want all that water in there. If you're doing it at home, either with nettles or with the spinach, just wrap these in a clean tea towel and then you can squeeze all the water out. Well, I didn't bring anything with me, unfortunately, so I'm just going to have to do the best I can by squeezing it through here and then squeezing it on my chopping board. And then I'm just going to chop this up. It's hot. Wow, that smells really good. So that sauce has thickened nicely, as you can see. And then the last thing to go in is 50 millilitres of single cream. So here's my lamb. I've got 2 of these leg steaks like this, which should be really nice, one for me and one for Mags. And I'm going to cook them using my new frying pan. Doesn't look very new because I've used it a lot over the past sort of 3 or 4 weeks. I bought this in Sweden, although it's actually a French pan. It's a one of these carbon steel pans by baaaahhh. Superb pan, really good alternative to cast iron if you want something that is almost as good but without the weight. These are still a bit weighty, but they're not as heavy. I'm just going to put a little bit of oil in my pan, not a lot. That's yours. Oh, that's nice. It's really rich and creamy, as you'd expect. Let's try the lamb. That's really good. I'll probably say this about most meats, but I think lamb is my favourite meat. Go. Well, lunch was good. I don't think you can beat going out and cooking something over an open fire. Nice piece of meat cooked over the fire. You get all that lovely smoky flavour. Everything always tastes better. So we're going to get things packed away here. I've got a couple of more things to clean up before I pack them away, and then we'll get this this fire put out, clear up all our mess, and leave this place as if we hadn't been here. So I hope you enjoyed the video. Get out there and pick some nettles. You know, they grow in abundance, and they taste good, and they're full of lots of goodness, full of vitamins, full of iron. Yeah, just a great vegetable. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you soon.